Questions for oral answer. Would some honourable member care to move that the House take note
Mr. Speaker.
of miscellaneous business?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to do so. Mr. Speaker, just last week, Patrick Smelly said that the national government was wise to go to the election early because the economic news from here on gets worse. In other words, this is as good as it gets. In a year when 46% of New Zealanders got no increase in their wages, his message to New Zealand is National's gone early because it gets no better than this. The economic recovery is built on a housing bubble in Auckland, the Christchurch rebuild. The exports have peaked. From here, they don't go down. Now, Mr. Speaker, you might think, well, Patrick Smelly, trusted economic advisor, but who else is saying this? Well, just yesterday, Shamabeel Yacob, the chief economist at NZIER, he said raising interest rates is a huge mistake at a time when inflation is incredibly low and you're only doing it because of the housing market in Auckland. Quotes, it scares the hell out of me because the collateral damage rises with each increase and you risk tipping the regions into recession. He said, yes, house prices are out of control in Auckland. That's me saying that. He said they've gone up by 20% in real terms since 2007, but in the rest of the country, they fell by 21% during the same period. That's, of course, excluding Canterbury. Mr. Speaker, he then said the gaps opening up in New Zealand are really big across geographical, race and education lines. One of the biggest issues of the generation is the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. That is the chief economist of the NZIER, his conclusion after 6 years of a national government. Mr. Speaker, across both sides of the House, Labor and National, we favour consistently stronger economic growth. And indeed, if you look at since World War II, the rate of economic growth in real terms under Labor has been slightly higher than under National. But we both stand for economic growth. I don't deny that. National does. We do too. Of course we do. We're the party of Labor and we need jobs and higher incomes. But the bigger difference lies in our desire to share that around fairly so that the economy is stronger and everyone gets ahead. And it's Labor that always brings forward the long-term structural changes that reduce inequality. National's not worried about it, and they deny it's occurring. Despite decreasing home ownership rates, the lowest in 50 years, increasing child poverty, increasing gap between the haves and the have-nots, the refusal to tax capital gains, they deny that inequality is getting worse, despite the fact that someone like Shamabeel Yacob, the chief economist of the NZIER, says that those gaps are widening in every way. Mr. Speaker, we believe long-term solutions are important. That's why we introduced KiwiSaver, which National voted against. We believe in long-term savings through the Cullen Fund that Bill English described as a dog when he voted against it and now says it's a good idea. Mr. Speaker, it's now time to move to universal KiwiSaver. New Zealand is dis-savings again at the moment. We are actually borrowing more money from overseas because we are not saving. We are spending more than we earn. We are dis-saving, Mr. Speaker. One of the answers to that is a capital gains tax. Another important answer to that is a universal KiwiSaver scheme. That's what they've got in Australia. That's one of the reasons why they've got higher wages in Australia. It's one of the reasons why they own their banks, plus ours, plus so much of our corporate sector. They have a work-based savings scheme. Mr. Speaker, everyone in Australia has to be in. We hear the National Party saying the poor the low-paid shouldn't be able to afford to save. We think differently on this side. We think everyone needs a nest egg. We think the economy's stronger as a consequence, Mr. Speaker, and if people can't afford to save at the bottom end, they need a lift to the minimum wage and a push towards a lift in the minimum wage, a push toward the living wage. Higher wages is what they'll get under Labor. And following through on that, we will have higher growth rates, we'll have lower exchange rate, higher values in exports and more high-value jobs, all at the same time as avoiding this ridiculous housing housing bubble that's arisen under National in Auckland.
Speaker.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, I'm just concerned that perhaps we need to turn the heating up in the House, because Mr Henare is obviously very, very cold over there. I just wonder if you would like to increase the heating so that you can take that scarf off.
I can't see a valid point of order coming out of that, but I will comment that the level of interjection through that speech was unreasonable. I hesitated whether to assist the member, but I didn't want to. I agree he didn't. I didn't want to interrupt the speech, but it's a robust debate. It's the general debate, but the level of interjection must be reasonable. The question is the motion be agreed to. Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, in the next few days, the Labour Party have to